Hi, my name is Lily Tew, and today I will be talking about a flood risk assessment for a section of the city in Sacramento, California. California is a very interesting state because it has a Mediterranean climate. This means that it has distinct dry seasons and wet seasons. Most of the precipitation in the state falls in the north, in the Sierra Nevadas, and at lower elevations it falls as rain, but in the Sierra Nevadas it falls as snow. The snow is stored in snowpack, and when it melts, it will flow down towards the valley and into the delta. Here is a map to highlight the area of focus that we will be talking about. In this map, you can see that Sacramento County is highlighted in red. Within the county, we will be focusing on the city of Sacramento and specifically in the neighborhood of Natomas, which is right here. You will notice that the Sacramento River is on one side of the Natomas area and the American River is on the other side. Here is a map called City of Sacramento Areas Dependent on Levees. I just want to draw attention to the Natomas area, which is here. And from the key, you can see that most of the Natomas area is highlighted in the blue that indicates dependent on levees. And close to the American River here, it highlights that it is within the 100-year floodplain. Due to the dependence of this area on levees, we can see how vulnerable it is if there were a levee failure. Here is another map that highlights the Sacramento area. This one is called Ultimate Flood Depths Assuming No Levees. We can see that if a flood were to occur, the Natomas region here would be underneath a range of 5 to 15 feet of water. We can also see that some areas would be subjected to more flooding, indicated here with the darker red. This shows that it would have a flood depth of 15 to 20 feet of water. This area could be more prone to flooding due to a low point in the topography. With this map, we can see how vulnerable the area of Natomas is if there were a flooding event. When talking about flooding, there are two types could occur: gradual or catastrophic. Gradual flooding occurs during events of heavy rains, and this type would allow for hours or days of warning before an actual flooding event would occur. An example of this type of flooding would be when the river exceeds its levee capacity. The other type of flooding is in a catastrophic event where there is little to no warning before the flooding event. An example of this type of flooding would be if there were a dam failure or a levee failure. This would cause water to surge through the city. Although these types of events could occur, the city of Sacramento has some solutions to protect its citizens. When talking about flooding, there are two types that could occur: gradual and catastrophic. Gradual flooding occurs during events of heavy rains, and this would allow for hours or days of warning before an actual flooding event would occur. An example of this type of flooding would be when the river exceeds the levee capacity. The other type of flooding is in a catastrophic event where there is little to no warning before the flood. An example of this type of flooding would be if there were a dam or levee failure. This would cause water to surge through the city. Although these types of events could occur, the city of Sacramento has some solutions to protect its citizens. Some solutions to threats of flooding are to build dams on rivers. These dams are used to control the amount of water that is in the river at different times. These dams also have reservoirs behind them which act as a water supply. Another solution to threats of flooding is by creating a bypass area with weirs to direct water. These bypass areas are allowed to flood when discharge from rivers are too great for the channels to handle. An example of this would be the Yolo Bypass Wildlife Area. Lastly, another solution to threats of flooding would be to create levees along rivers. This increases the capacity of the channel to hold water. Although these systems can help with flood threats, there are three issues to keep in mind. These systems can be downgraded over time due to three main factors. One is urbanization. With increased urbanization, there's also increased overland flow and decreased infiltration. This causes more water to be sent into the river systems rather than infiltrated into the ground. Another factor is the length of the record that is being used to set the level of protection. With a larger length of record, there could be changes on how well these systems protect from flooding events. Another factor to consider is climate change. As the climate changes, it is unpredictable, and this could affect how well protected cities can be. The length and strength of storms becomes unpredictable, and these could cause flooding events. My final conclusions for the Natomas area is that it is extremely dependent on the levees for flood protection. I personally believe that it is not ideal because there is a chance that the levees could fail or be breached by water in an event of a large storm. Also, I would say that these facts, that the area is surrounded by rivers on two sides, makes it a high-risk location and vulnerable to flooding. Also, currently, there is a Natomas Levee Improvement Program to improve the levees to protect in an event of a 100-year flood. The city is currently working to protect its citizens. Here is where I got my sources for my pictures and also the maps that were used in this presentation. Thank you.